Hi, it's Kaylin, and I am doing a video as part of a series that I plan to do every Friday, and it's called 5 for Fridays. It's where I pick 5 books that fall under a certain genre or category, and I will talk to you about those books and why I like them and why I recommend them as good representations of the genre or category. So this week I am doing 5 books on children's books. And so without further ado, I will show you what books I have chosen. And the first book I have is Wonderstruck by Brian Selznick. This is one of 3 of Brian Selznick's really big books. And the other 2 being The Invention of Hugo Cabret and also The Marvels. The Marvels is the most recent, and I believe this came out after The Invention of Hugo Cabret. This is my favorite of the 3. Brian Selznick has also illustrated other children's books, but he is probably more known for these 3 books. Wonderstruck is my favorite. It tells 2 different stories that parallel each other, but they are in different time periods. One is the story of a deaf girl who is trying to find out more about this actress she knows of and has discovered in this newspaper clipping, and the pictures really follow her story and give us a sense of what her mission is, and she wants to know more, like I said, about this actress. And she's in a museum, and at some point there's a lightning storm and things kind of get dramatic from there, and this actually coincides with, I believe, the big blackout in the 70s of New York. So that features in this book. And the boy's story that parallels this book is that this boy is searching for the father he has never known, and he goes on an adventure to figure that all out. And so the book is a pretty fast read. It's a huge book, but as you can see, there are lots of pictures in it. It's got pictures and it's got text. And the pictures, I believe, tell the girl's story, and the text tells the boy's story. And eventually, the 2 stories kind of merge, and we see what the connections are between these 2 characters. This is a great book, I think, for young kids and for adults, too. I think the character of the young girl is very interesting. She's a deaf character, so that's not something that you really read about too often. And you kind of learn about how things are in her view of the world, not being able to hear anything. And so that kind of made things more interesting, having that perspective from that type of character. So that is Wonderstruck by Brian Selznick. The next book I have is The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton. This book came out, I believe, in the 60s. Either the 60s or 70s, and it also has a movie as well that's also partially animated and partially real people in it. So the movie I had seen when I was very young, and then I read the book after, when I found out that there actually was a book based that was written before the movie came out. This is about a young boy named Milo who is very bored. He is not inspired by anything. He's bored with school. He doesn't really want to learn anything. He's not interested in anything. And one day, a package arrives on his doorstep, and inside is a toll booth and a car. So he gets into the car, decides to drive through the toll booth, and he is transported into this magical world full of all sorts of interesting, strange characters. And basically, these characters kind of show him that there's lots to be curious about, there's lots to be interested in, and so much to learn about, including words and numbers and math and kind of science and all kinds of different topics. There's 2 kingdoms in this world, and there's a king who thinks that words are more important than numbers, and the other king thinks that numbers are more important than words. And so he becomes getting kind of stuck in between that argument. But along for the ride is this dog that he meets called Talk, and Talk becomes kind of a good little sidekick who comes with him on his adventure. So this is a very, very interesting, clever book. There's really nothing like it. I think the closest I could maybe compare it to is The Wizard of Oz, given the adventure and taking kind of a regular person and putting them smack dab in the middle of a magical and strange new world. So I don't see how anyone could not enjoy that. So that is the Phantom Tollbooth. It is illustrated by Jules Pfeiffer, and I can show you a couple of the illustrations. They are black and white, just looks like pen drawings. But I remember these are kind of iconic pictures for me. I remember seeing when I was growing up and reading this book. So very memorable, very fun. That's the Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster. Next book I have is The Mouse and the Motorcycle, and this is by Beverly Cleary. This is about a little mouse who lives in a hole in a wall in a hotel. And he's seen many people come and go from the room where the hole leads into. And one day this boy is staying in the room, and the boy leaves a little toy motorcycle out. And the mouse, being very curious, wants to take a ride on this motorcycle. Well, he meets the boy, and the boy really likes the mouse, and he teaches him how to ride the motorcycle. And the mouse goes on kind of a little adventure throughout the hotel and kind of runs into some danger along the way, and it's kind of like a little adventure story with both the mouse and the young boy. So this book I read on a long car trip when I was a kid, and I remember the car trip being a lot more enjoyable because of this book. It was one that I got sucked into. The pictures are cute, and the story really kind of propels you forward, and it's a lot of fun. It's very kind of charming. The character of the mouse is charming. Just a very, very agreeable, fun book. So that is The Mouse and the Motorcycle by Beverly Cleary. I have two more books to show you. One is Bunnicula, and this is by Deborah and James Howe. I read this book when I was also very young, and it was one of those books that really kind of spurred on my love for reading. And this book is about a family who has a dog and a cat, and they decide to add to their family by buying a rabbit. The rabbit has two little fangs for teeth, and the cat starts to suspect there's something strange about him besides having fangs, because the family has discovered that in their refrigerator the vegetables have magically turned white overnight, as if someone has essentially sucked the juice out of them. So the cat suspects that the rabbit is some kind of vampire, and he becomes hung up on trying to figure out what is up with this rabbit, and he wants to defend his household and his family. So he, along with the reluctant dog, who is kind of not as suspicious of the rabbit, they kind of try and figure out the mystery. So this book had cute pictures as well. I keep choosing books with illustrations, but that's kind of what makes a great children's book, as well as the good illustrations that follow the story. So this is Bunnicula by Deborah and James Howe, and it's a fun, cute little read, and I highly recommend it. And the last book I have to recommend is Pippi Longstocking by Astrid Lindgren. First of all, I apologize for the sticker on the book. It was one of those stickers that doesn't come clean off, and rather than pulling it off piece by piece, I just left it on there for now. So I'll just have to ignore that. This is Pippi Longstocking. This is about two little kids, a boy and a girl, who are brother and sister, and they meet a girl in their neighborhood named Pippi Longstocking. She has red braids and is very quirky and fun, and the young kids just kind of get drawn into her world. She is living in a huge house all by herself with no parents or family. she has a horse and a monkey, and she seems to have some kind of strange abilities, and she charms the young kids, and they become really close friends with her, and they basically get into all kinds of mischief and adventures together. And I remember really liking this book and being drawn to the movie, which also came out in, I believe, the 80s. It was called The New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking, and I was really into horses, and so I was, of course, wanting to see this movie. She's got the horse and she's got the monkey. So Pippi Longstocking is a fun book. I read it through audiobook years ago, so I never actually read the book, but I think it's something anyone could enjoy. It's pretty short. It's, of course, got pictures in it, and there's a part in the book where there's an orphanage, because Pippi, there are some people who don't want her to be living all by herself with no supervision, so she gets sent to, I believe, a school orphanage, and there's a fire, and Pippi ends up helping to rescue some of the kids in the orphanage. So there's one little picture. But that's Pippi Longstocking. It's a fun read. It came out in 1950, but it's kind of one of those timeless classics that any age, any time, kids would enjoy, and adults too. So that is Pippi Longstocking, and that is my 5 for Friday list of books for children. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next Friday for another pick, and I will let you know what that will be come next Friday. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.